Hey, it's Kurt here with Inspect Server Coffee. Welcome back to Top Agent Training. We do win over some realtors' hearts because we include solar power as part of our home inspection. We don't charge any extra for it. Solar power is becoming more and more common, and it is a part of the house. And again, a lot of the states and NACHI says, no, it's not part of a home inspection. We'll still look at it and comment on it. So I'm going to show you what we talk. Now, if you go to our YouTube page, I do have a couple of training videos where I actually on site show you solar power in two different videos and how it works and what's actually happening and kind of what we're looking for. But this will be just specific to us writing up the report. So you more on the YouTube channel if you want. So snapshot, we're going to take a picture of the AC disconnect, the DC disconnect. Where are they? So inside your electrical panel, you've got all of the breakers for the rest of the house. But if you think about what's actually going on there, you've got power from the power company, which is going through that meter right there into the panel, right? And then flowing into the house. And it flows into the house through all those breakers in there, right? But then when you have solar power, you got another breaker down on the bottom there. And that's because you've got this solar power that's creating energy that is bypassing what's coming from the power company. And that's the breaker for the solar, what's being created by the solar into the house. So we'll actually jot down if that breaker's pretty big. And the reason behind that is normally you don't want that breaker to be more than 20% of the bus bar's capacity. And most of the bus bar's capacity is 200 amps. So 20% would be, so 30, 40, above that. And again, we don't assume the electricians did it wrong, but if it's like 50 or 60, we'll write that down and say, hey, I would have another electrician just do a double check on it just to make sure there's no problem. So the panels are up on the roof typically. What's happening is the sunlight hits it, excites the electrons in there. The electrons all flow in the same direction, okay? That's called direct current. So then on the side of the house, usually, sometimes in the garage, sometimes actually up on the roof, you'll have an inverter. And what's happening is you're going to take all that electrical excitement and it is turning direct current into alternating current, all right? Which is the wavy kind of electricity. And then basically that AC is what the house uses. So you have two shutoffs. You have the AC shutoff, which is from the house power to the solar panels. This is so you can work on the solar panels in a safe manner without worrying about being electrocuted. But then you also have the DC shutoff, which is basically any power being created by the solar panels shut off to the panel so that you could work on the panel safely. Because if you shut off the main disconnect in an electrical panel, but you don't shut off the solar panels, guess what? You still have electricity coming to the panels from the solar panels. So the AC and the DC disconnect are usually right there with all the electrical stuff. And if they're not there, if they're not labeled or we can't find them, we would actually write that up as a red item. And the reason behind that is that if the fire department shows up and there's some kind of electrical fire and they want to turn the power off, they need to know where to do that. So that's why that's a red item. So we'll tell them which way the panels are moving, if they're damaged somehow, if there's not enough spacing, if there's loose wires, if they're not connected properly. We'll write that down. The location of all the, like I was saying, the AC and DC disconnects, if there's lightning arresters, I was telling you if that breaker's too big. And then, okay, so you'll almost always see a second meter near the inverter. You got the one that was built with the house. Now, why would you have 2 meters? Well, the reason you have 2 meters is because the first meter, usually only goes in one direction, right? Because the power company is sending you your power and they're tracking how much it's sending you. Well, this second one, sometimes your solar panels create enough energy that they're sending power back to the grid. And so it's like a clock, right? Clocks only always go in one direction. Well, with this new one, we could send stuff back to them so it can go in this direction and it can go in that direction. So that's the reason it's called a net meter. And it can go back and forth in both directions so that if you are being paid by the power company for sending power back to the grid, then you can keep track of that. Nowadays, a lot of power companies don't even pay you anymore because they just don't. They're like, why should we? But most of the time, you don't want to try and create a power grid on your house that is in excess of what the house needs because the basic principle is that you send power and get paid in wholesale rates, and then when you buy it, you buy it in retail rates. So it's just very hard to win. Solar's too expensive to try and typically fill the grid with your power and get paid for it. All right, so that's pretty much everything that we look at for solar. We have done a couple so far where we've seen some Tesla battery packs, which is pretty cool, where there's a battery there that'll help store the power created by the solar array so that you could get things when the weather's bad or at night or things like that. So if you got a house with solar, you're going to want to give us a call. All right, we'll see you in the next training.